Not Nerd Podcast, Episode 339, Apple's WWDC 2022.
Welcome to the Not Nerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and here with me in person, Mr. Dave Baylor. We are here to help you tech better. I forgot all that, how I do that thing, because we just got done watching a very lengthy presentation from Apple for their WWDC Worldwide Developers Conference 2022 keynote.
Yes, and in case you don't recall, this is where Apple gets developers from around the world, puts them in a virtual space these days, but this time maybe a physical space.
Yes, they also had some there in person, outdoors.
Yeah, so they get all these developers together and they give you the preview, a glimpse as what's coming this fall. And so there's all kinds of things from iOS updates, some new hardware, and all these things that you can learn about now, but you really won't be able to take advantage of until this fall, unless, of course, you are a public beta person or a developer. I don't think we have a lot of developers listening to us. It's probably usually not. A lot of soccer moms who will probably listen to the intro of this show and then delete it.
But don't do that. But no. It was about an hour and 44 minutes long. I will have in the show notes a link to the video if you want to go watch it. I don't know. I'm going to find one of those, and Apple started doing them, like the 10-minute
or
I've got
5-minute some up here on YouTube
highlight reel, because there is a lot of stuff that even I... Mm-hmm. And you took a break during the mail app conversation. Yeah. I took a break during the gaming when they were interviewing somebody about their video game. But there is a lot of exciting stuff, and you are getting this podcast earlier than our normal Wednesday morning because we do want to get it out there so you have some talking points around the water cooler.
Yes, everyone will be just dying to listen to our analysis so they can talk about it with their friends at work.
Yeah, so, and it was interesting, like you were mentioning, they did have... I'm guessing probably around 1,000 people that were seated outside to watch the same video that we watched. And I saw a photo on Twitter. It looked like maybe Tim Cook came out and welcomed them, and then they just all watched the video, and most of it was in the sun, so people were trying to sit in the back under the shade. And
how did you see this? It wasn't on
just on Twitter. Okay. Yeah, they made no reference to that at all on the video, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into it. They started off with iOS 16.
Yes, who would have thought that they would have come out with a new version of iOS? Yeah. I mean, they've done it every year for like 10 years or 16 years. I don't know.
When 15 years 15 or something years. Like that.
So yeah, one thing the rumor mill got right was the lock screen is going to be updated. Currently, you can put a picture on there. And you can even turn off the little parallax fake thing that doesn't work, and it still does parallax.
Yes.
I just hate it upside down and inside out. So they've actually updated. They probably won't fix the parallax thing, but you can now change the font of the time, the colors, portrait photos. I noted that you've seen this on the watch face, where you put your portrait up there and the time kind of goes behind the person's head a little bit. Yeah. There's widgets that you can have on your lock screen, which is amazing and obvious. They have a wallpaper gallery where you can put special wallpapers on there. And I put in parentheses, like the watch faces on there. Of course, they have a widget kit for developers. Notifications have been updated and changed. Now, Nate, I'm not a big notifications person. Do you use the notifications like on your lock screen or anything like that?
I do. It's usually the, quick peek at my phone to, see, Dave was just editing the show notes. I don't need to open my phone to that. So I do, look at that, or calendar stuff will come up, text messages, where I can quickly look. So I think, and it's going to be kind of a new rolling thing from the bottom.
It kind of rolls in versus just stacking and stacking.
Yes.
So it'll have things on there too for notifications, like live activities for like sports scores that'll come in, pop in, so that you can just take a glance at your phone and see that. Now, there was some rumors that when the new hardware arrives this fall, that there might be an always-on display for the new iPhones, and specifically the Pro iPhones, so that you could just leave it on your desk, and in a very low screen refresh, it would just update the scores or something like that, or the weather or something.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I was going to bring that up because with those rumors, the fact that we're getting this preview of iOS 16 and all there's features that'll be on the new iPhone or the new Apple Watch that they can't talk about yet because the hardware doesn't exist. So something like the always on screen, just because they didn't talk about that today, that's something that they would let us know in the September iPhone event at that point. So
next up was focus. There's new focus filters. And I'm not talking about camera. I'm talking about the kind of the notification focus.
The expanded do not disturb functionality, where you can have custom different ways for do not disturb to be set up.
And I'm gun shy with the focus because I turned it on one time and it shut off everything. So I don't use it much anymore.
Yeah.
But the big star of the show, messages.
Yes.
New message features. Everybody's always looking for message features. What of these items that we're going to talk about, what are you most excited about?
I am most excited about, and I had a little chirp during the thing, a woohoo. You can mark messages as unread. Now, Dave, let's say you send me a text message. I can see in the little preview that it's something important that I can't handle right now. So I don't want to click on the message now because I want the little blue dot to be there so that I know that I need to pay attention to this. So now I could look at it and say, okay, yep, I need to do that. And then I can just swipe over and mark it as unread. So that notification, that's going to be huge because I use messages a lot, and it's very easy when you have lots of new messages coming in to forget about something.
Yeah, they get down in that list. And I mean, why don't they just pin a message or highlight a message?
I think you can set a reminder based on the message, which is probably what I should do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use that one all the time. But there's a lot of other features, like you can edit messages you already sent. You can undo a sent message.
So the edit message you already sent is a little dubious because it's like there's gaslighting opportunities.
Yes.
Hey, meet me at the corner at 5 p.m. and then you change it and they're like, where are you? I said 6 p.m.
Yes.
Look at your messages. Wait, it does say 6.
Yes. And
so maybe there'll be a little edit flag on there.
I think I did see in one of the screenshots that there was a little edited there, and it might be like Facebook where if you wanted to, you could see the original. So I don't know.
Maybe tap and hold to see the original.
Yes, if this is going to be, a lifesaver if you send the wrong text message or something, but it will give you a little functionality there just to clean up your messages.
I think it's primarily for misspellings.
Yeah.
Go fix the misspelling before the other person reads it, and it's like,
Yes,
you don't have to say star and then the real word and
yes.
That
yes, that dance. Right there, the amount of messages saved by not having to, and it's usually 3 or 4 messages before it'll actually spell the word correctly. What you wanted to say. So I like that. And there's the shared with you stuff that they introduced last year. There's more functionality with that. So I'm excited. I use messages a ton. And so having more functionality in there and being able to clean up some of that stuff. And the SharePlay, which is the one feature that I'm not interested in, where you can watch a video together with somebody and all this stuff.
I mean, maybe teenagers like this, or people who have lovey-dovey significant others that aren't in the same room with them.
Yes.
I don't know. That's enough with messages.
Yes.
But a part of messages and the part of the entire iOS 16 is dictation, and I use this a lot.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'll start typing something and it's like, I'm carrying something. I got one hand and I'm just like, I should just use dictation. And it's kind of a toss-up. Does the dictation make more spelling mistakes, or does my typing make more spelling mistakes? But what I like about the new way they're doing this is they allow the keyboard to stay up while you're dictating. So you can say dictation, hey Nate, I'm going to, and then type something in that it's going to break, and then continue dictating. And you can even highlight a word, and use dictation to replace the word, which wasn't something that you may have been able to do it. Probably highlight, delete, turn on dictation, say the phrase, turn dictation off, go back to keyboard. So they made all that stuff much easier.
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. And they're going to put auto punctuation in there, which results may vary, as with everything.
Well,
but
I've gotten used to saying period, comma, quote, end quote. Yeah, so that stuff should be more automated, which is good.
Yeah, and then they talked about live text, which again I think was introduced last year, where you can automatically copy text out of photos, and they're adding it to video, so you could pause a video, and if there's some text you need, I don't use this enough, but the live text is it's amazing. It works really well. Don't completely trust it, but to save yourself a lot of time, you just take a picture of something, or now if you're watching a video, you can pause it, copy the text off of, if you're watching a presentation, instead of taking screenshots of everything, just copy and paste it somewhere else, and you're good to go. So I'm excited for that one as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. iOS would not be complete without the wallet.
Yes.
And so there, of course, are updates. We've heard about different states getting driver's license or state IDs or whatever that you can put in your digital wallet. And I don't know how this works. Like, I'm not going to hand an officer my phone, but maybe they just look at it.
Scan it. They probably have a device in their car where they just automatically know before they even get close to you.
But that's kind of cool, because I've gone out and have left my wallet at home, and I'm like, oh shoot, I hope I don't get stopped.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have it on your phone, and that will expand. It's 2 states now. It'll be more later. As you joked around, Oregon will probably design their own app to do this, and it won't work, and they'll spend about $17 million doing it.
Yes.
So, but in-app ID verification, keys in wallet. Now, this is something that's neat, like automobile digital keys, or like hotel keys, or other type of digital keys that are issued to you. It's so handy just to be able to keep that in the wallet versus having to have a separate app or something crazy like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be nice. Then they were talking tied in with wallet, Apple Pay. You can the tap to pay on iPhone, which is now started, where you don't need any external hardware. You can just tap. They're going to keep improving on that. And then they also introduced Apple Pay Later, where anything that you're using Apple Pay for, and I don't know if it's just the Apple Card or if it'll work with other cards, but you can split it into 4 payments over 6 weeks. So the example they showed was buying like a $200 coffee maker. You could do it in 4 $50 payments. Now, I don't know, this reminds me of like the home shopping network kind of stuff. So I don't know how, and you commented that maybe you should just save up and pay all the money.
Yeah, pay cash for it.
But I can see people doing that.
People love to buy things now, instant gratification, and pay over time. And it's kind of like instead of like a software subscription or a movie channel subscription, it's a subscription for things in the real life. You mean I can go buy a coffee maker and just subscribe for a few months to the coffee maker plan, and I can have it now? Sign me up. Well, the problem comes when you do that 1,000 times and you can't afford it. But so anyway, it's available in there for people who want to use it, and my guess is it only works with the Apple credit card, not other cards. But who knows? Apple's got a lot of money. They might be able to front everyone the necessary resources.
Yes.
Oh, and then the last thing before we go off of Apple Pay, the order tracking. There's that Shipped app or whatever that I signed up for, where it shows you, hey, your Amazon stuff's coming, or your whatever from Nintendo.com is coming, which is kind of nice. Well, Apple's going to have a version of that built in. They'll just track what you purchase and get all the tracking ID stuff, and it should work out pretty well. And then, something I love, and something that's always needs an improvement, especially on the Apple side, is Maps. They've redesigned Maps in 10 countries and regions, and there's going to be 11 more coming. So I don't know exactly what all that entails, but you can add stops with Siri, which, man, I could use this a lot. We go to Seattle to visit Val's folks, go up there, and it's like, we better stop and get gas. It's like, cancel the trip, do the thing to the gas station, go to the gas station, redo the trip. It's like, there are ways to do this, but it's complicated. Now you can just say, hey, add a stop with your voice, and it will work really well.
Yes, and they're doing transit improvements, so you can, and also with a lot of the trip stuff, you can plan on your Mac and then just send it to your phone, which is nice.
Yeah.
Easy to see fares, transit fares, bus or train.
So if you have 5 stops, it's going to cost this much, not, oh, this is $14 here. I got to write that down and then calculate something else and write that down. You can do the entire journey and get a total of what your transit fees are going to be, which is kind of nice. And kind of, again, obvious, like, why wasn't that there before?
Yeah. And you can add transit cards to wallet, which I think some of that you could already do. Map kit improvements for other apps. They showed your Lime scooters or whatever, you'd be able to pull it up, and just with their more 3D maps, you'd actually get a better idea where you could go find a scooter.
It's all integrated. It doesn't have to live inside the Lime app.
Yes, and you can look around, and then server-side APIs for developers.
Yeah, all that server-side stuff. It's like, yay for them. And Nate, the thing that we're most excited about in life is sports, right? The two giant nerds that love sports. Well, you can now see live activities. The Apple TV app will bring scores on the lock screen of your phone and iPad and stuff like that, like through their widgets. Apple News has integrations to follow leagues and teams. They have this thing called My Sports. So this is a feature. The sports feature is going to be integrated throughout the iOS experience.
Yes. But I will say, as a Portland Trailblazers fan, the first item, I never want to see the live updates of the sports scores, because I'm DVRing it so I can recording it so I can watch it later without all the ads, and I don't understand who's wanting to follow scores when you're not watching it.
Well, for people who are maybe working who are not going to watch it later.
Yeah.
For example, Valerie's dad loves baseball statistics.
Baseball, yeah.
Right, but he doesn't watch a lot of the games.
He doesn't watch all 162 games per season? That's weird.
That lasts 4 hours each. So he might.
Yes.
Although I don't know. I think he's got an iPhone now. But he might be a person who would like to just glance at his lock screen and go, oh, the Red Sox or this or whatever.
Yes.
So that might be handy for you.
Yes, and I'm not an Apple news user, and I was saying I don't want to read articles about sports. I that's just not who I am. But I'm sure listeners like Mike, who is a huge baseball fan, he might be more interested in those. After the sports, we got into what you ignore with sports, the family sharing, your family. And they have, and you commented, it's like, this stuff doesn't really work that great. Well, they are adding more functionality for, age-appropriate settings for kids, and a little more granularity, I think, to be able to set that up better and be able to manage things. Setting up new devices is easier, so you're going to set up a new device, and you just pick, okay, this one's for Isla, and it'll just bring in all
of
those
her settings are there. Yeah, you have it on your phone, and when you get a new iPad for Isla, you just hold it near it, and it puts all the settings on there, which is kind of handy. What else there with family sharing?
Screen time requests. So instead of having a little notification, having to go into a separate app, it'll just come into messages. So if the kid says, hey, I just need 15 more minutes to finish my video, you can just click it in messages, where we live anyways.
Yeah, and with Sam's phone, we've had various iterations of screen not screen sharing,
screen time
over the years. And for some reason, the one that limits installing apps, like I turned everything off, but that one stayed on or something. And so he'll be like, a game. It's like, can I, and I'll miss the notification, right?
Yeah.
And then like an hour later, he'll go, hey, can you approve that app? I want to play this game. And I'm just like, okay, well, you're 18 years old. I shouldn't have to approve this now. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt to go find it. So now it'll just be a text message. So I can look back and just do it, and it'll be great.
Yes. In the family checklist, tips for parents.
I was a little fuzzy on this, but it looks like they're giving resources to parents of things to look for. Versus like, here's a bunch of nebulous settings with weird names. They're actually going to have some documentation on how to use this appropriately for your kids, which is very welcome.
Yes, and then they moved on to photos, and if it wasn't confusing enough already, they're adding something new, iCloud shared photo library, instead of just a shared photo library or your iCloud library. Now they've combined them, and so that you have a separate iCloud library that people in your family sharing can contribute to, and you can share everything or certain faces in the photos manually. You can do all this stuff. So like if you had a family one, and you can manage permissions for editing, and then if I go in and edit the photos, crop and enhance or whatever, it'll sync through there. Now, my wife and I, we're actually on our 5th photos shared album because I think there's a 5,000 photo limit, and we have a daughter and we take a lot of pictures. So we had to move into our 5th one. I don't know if this will replace it. I'm really curious because one of my big frustrations is I have optimized photo storage on my phone.
Okay.
So if I want to share photos with our shared album with Chelsea, it downloads the photos from iCloud onto my phone and then shares them back up to the cloud somewhere else in the shared album.
Which makes no sense.
It makes no sense. So I think in kind of the way they were talking about instantly, that maybe once it gets up to iCloud, it can just move from one iCloud to the other iCloud. So maybe this will work for what we do, but...
Well, Google Photos has solved this problem years ago, where they just say, hey, share your entire library with a person.
Yes.
And then it does, and then you can go back in later, and I take a bunch of pictures of stuff on the Walmart shelves, backs of computers and receipts and all that stuff. You can go in and say, unshare this, unshare this, unshare this. And it's a little bit of a hassle, but instead of the default being don't share and you have to add everything, by default it shares everything and you can just curate the list. I think that's a wonderful solution. So Apple has not done that, but they have at least made a step in a direction where you can say share everything to this shared folder, and then of course you can curate it after the fact. So it's a little bit similar, but they've added complexities on top of it that are really not necessary. So I wonder if the average Joe is really going to use this feature and know how to use it. I'll be intrigued to see how it works.
Out. And then there was a big tone shift for the next segment on privacy, and they're introducing a new feature called Safety Check, which is they were talking about it from the perspective of somebody that's in like an abusive relationship and being able to quickly turn off any Apple sharing that you have with them and have visibility on that. And
like
turn
location sharing or shared photos or whatever, all the stuff we've been talking about. So it's like, hey, you're a happy family and you want to share photos. Now you're in a not happy family.
Not happy family, and you're trying to get away so you can quickly do that stuff. And you also have a lot of visibility on how that stuff is working. So and then they moved on to the Home and the Home app and ecosystem.
And I haven't been real verbally against the Home app, but internally, I read stories, I look at demos, and the Home app just seems very basic, very crippled. Why would you even want to use this type of thing? It looks like they're putting a little bit of effort and love into organizing it and making it something that's easy to use. But for years, I've been avoiding buying home compatible devices or Apple compatible because I'm just like, the other guys have a better ecosystem. So maybe now it'll work good. I don't know.
And speaking of the other guys, they were working with some of the other companies for a new platform and ecosystem called Matter, which is a smart accessories standard that will work across different brands and devices, so it doesn't have to be specifically HomeKit. Now, I did not see the Wise logo on their little screenshot there. So, but a lot of the different companies, so hopefully it will work better together. Our door lock is HomeKit, so I can quickly go into my control center and lock or unlock the front door.
That's the big advantage, is it's integrated with Control Center, so you can quickly do these things versus having to open an app. Like I do the Wise app to look at the cameras and stuff sometimes, and it's like, open the app, wait for it to open, click on the thing, wait for it to load. So I can see a lot of advantages of having it integrated right into your device.
So there's new layouts and everything for the Home app, so hopefully that'll be a big improvement. Then they moved on to the car with CarPlay. And they were showing, I mean, this really looks like a huge update for CarPlay. Now, neither of us have CarPlay in our vehicles, but they're showing like where basically the entire dashboard is just a screen and it's all controlled by CarPlay, which would imply that maybe they should just come out with a car.
Maybe.
But, your speedometer and your widgets, and you can control the heat and the cooling and everything through this very Apple-looking screen.
Imagine you have a Tesla, and right below the steering wheel, there's a bunch of screens or whatever.
Yes.
I think it depends on the model. And then there's the giant iPad type
Yes.
thing. So in a world where CarPlay would exist for that, you could replace your speedometer, your tachometer. Maybe you want to replace it with a map of like your navigation, or maybe you want a weather widget in there alongside your tachometer, and you want your speed indicator over on the giant iPad. It's like you could move all these widgets around. It seemed kind of far-fetched and futuristic, but I mean, if it works, great.
So, and I think this is going to start rolling out to cars next year, they said, with a bunch of the brands. There are going to be updates to, current CarPlay cars. But it looks like it's really, and it, again, like I said, looks like they're wanting to come out with their own car and have it just be all one big screen inside.
Imagine an Apple car where it's all white on the outside. There's minimal controls on the inside, and every surface just has a screen.
Yes.
Like everything, the door, the ceiling, everything's a screen.
Yep. And then they quickly mentioned spatial audio, that they're making it even more precise. It was like a really weird, one sentence thing.
They kind of just wedged it right in there.
Yes.
So Quick Note, though, was an item, and I think that's coming to iPhone. Quick Note is the feature on your iPad where you can swipe from the bottom right with your pencil or something and do a Quick Note. Well, apparently that's coming to iPhone.
Yes.
I had my beta on here. So.
see if it's working yet on your... And then they moved on to Apple Watch, which really I don't think we'll see a lot of the Apple Watch stuff until the fall when they introduce new watches, but they are going to have new faces, new user interface stuff, new banners, podcast update, share sheet and photos picker stuff, the workout app. They spent a lot of time on that it's going to have a bunch of new features. The sleep tracking is going to get a lot better with different sleep stages, so you really get some good data, and they're going to tie in this better sleep data with the Apple Heart and the movement studies, doing more stuff with the heart health, tracking the AFib stuff.
If you have a history of arterial fibrillation, whatever it is, it will track it. Again, this is one of these, it wasn't tracking it before, it just alerts you and then goes away. So at least now it will keep a history of that so that you can coordinate with your doctor on treatment plans and stuff like that. And medications, something that I could use. I take some medication in the evening, and I finally have a system in place, but I used to forget all the time. I'm like, did I take that? Or I'd be in bed and wake up and go, shoot, I forgot to take that or whatever. So having a little medication tracker on your watch would be really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to that.
That one looks really good. Well, after that, they took a little break from talking about software, and they talked about the Mac, and there was lots of rumors about this, but they introduced, it seems like just yesterday we got the M1 processors. Well, we now have the M2 processor, and
yes, that crack marketing team that Craig Federighi always talks about has done it again. They have named this stunning chip the M2.
And so it's a 5 nanometer chip, 20 billion transistors, all this stuff. They said it's about 20% better than the M1 chips, boost a better graphic. I mean, it's just
these numbers are all
chip.
Over the place.
And
I was talking about some where they'd say versus the Intel chips, it's 5 times faster. And versus the M1 chip, it's 28%. I'm like, wait, you're doing times and now you're doing percent. I don't know how those work in relation to each other. So just take the numbers with a grain of salt. Everything in the M2 is faster and better than the M1.
Yes. And they also introduced some hardware that will have the M2, a new design for the MacBook Air, and as you put in the notes, no wedge design, boo. So after 15 years now of the MacBook Air with the wedge so thin, they've
squared it off again, which is very strange. I don't know why they decided to do that, but
it is a very thin, very light laptop. It's got a 13.6 inch screen, so almost up to that 14 inch screen.
Close.
But everything's better on it. It does have 2 Thunderbolt ports and a headphone jack on it, a new 1080p webcam on it, better audio, all of this stuff. It's a fanless, so it's really great, and it starts at $1199 for the MacBook Air, and they're keeping the M1 around for $999.
Yeah, the former one was $999, and so instead of moving this into that slot, they've added $200. And I would say for those of you who are looking to get a MacBook Air, spending $200 to get the one with the M2 is probably the right decision.
It also has fast charging, where I think it'll charge up to 50% in 30 minutes with a 67-watt adapter.
Yeah, it probably comes with a 30-watt adapter, which I think is the standard. And then if you go out and buy the 67-watt adapter, then it will charge faster. But it's not necessary. I find that like on mine, which is what, the 2019 or 2020 M1 MacBook Pro, sometimes the plug comes undone or whatever, and I don't even notice it, and it's like, you're at 2%. I plug it in, before I know it, I'm back up to like 60%, so
yes,
they charge pretty fast regardless.
Yes, and then they also updated the MacBook Pro 13-inch. Now it's really confusing because they have the MacBook Pro 13-inch with Touch Bar, the only computer that still has a Touch Bar.
Right.
And then they have the 14-inch MacBook Pro and the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So this one, I don't know why they're still calling it a MacBook Pro. It's kind of weird, but it now has the M2 chip, and that starts at $1299. So that's the computer you have.
Yeah.
Only it's got the M2 chip now instead of M1.
And I think that's all they did was take the M1 chip out and put the M2. They may have improved some of the speed on the drive speed and the RAM speed and those type of things. But if you have my current computer, it's probably not advantageous to get the updated M2 version because cosmetically it's identical.
Yes. Yes. And then they moved on to the new version of macOS, which will be entitled, drumroll please, Ventura.
Ventura Highway in the summertime or something.
Yes. Yes. So they talked about Stage Manager, which is a new multitasking thing that I'm just going to have to play with before I see if it's something that's helpful.
It's interesting,
yes,
is what I'll say.
Yes, Spotlight's getting a lot of improvements, which I use Spotlight a ton to open applications.
You can now do
find
timers,
files.
run shortcuts. I use it all the time, like you said, to open files or applications, but setting a timer is going to be nice.
Yes, yes, and it'll be coming to iOS and iPadOS as well. Some mail updates where you can do undo send, you can do follow up, which is a basic of email, and you can also
it's kind of like
send
pinning.
Later. Yeah. So
these basic things that everyone else has been doing for years that they're finally getting.
Yes, and then you took your bathroom break. It was actually during the Safari updates.
Okay,
which the Safari web browser, there's going to be shared tab groups where you could have like a group of tabs that you're sharing with other people.
I don't know about this.
But more importantly, passkeys, where they're working with this FIDO alliance, where you don't really have passwords anymore. It's a passkey tied to your iCloud that can't be phished or leaked because it's a unique ID that will work with websites. So I'm really optimistic about this. I just hope that everybody will start integrating it so it'll really work. And they have ways to share them with, a Windows machine. You could use your iPhone and all this stuff that I'm really hoping will take off because, as we talk about all the time, passwords have served us well, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, and I think this is part of the thing that Apple and Google and Microsoft have been talking about over the past months. This is the first we were seeing of it. So it'll be interesting to see how it works across all platforms to prevent the phishing and all that stuff.
Yes, yes. And then they moved on to gaming, and gaming, they're working on it. They've got a new Metal 3 that helps games be better. No Man's Sky is coming to the Mac later this year. Games are loading. They had a guy from Resident Evil Village, which is when I took my bathroom break.
And it was all in his native language, and so it was all captioned. And so I'm struggling trying to read and take notes at the same time. Yes, I can touch type, but I'm like trying to look at the screen, and I missed what he said. And come on. Here's all you need to know is the M2 chip is very capable graphic-wise.
Yes.
And the power of the Mac has never been a problem for gaming.
No.
It's always been software support from Apple, which they do a very poor job supporting.
Yes.
So I say this every year. Hopefully, this will be a new chapter in supporting third-party developers for games on Mac. But we usually get these one-offs, like it was Tomb Raider a couple years ago. Now it's Resident Evil Village.
Yeah,
that's probably all you're going to see. Oh, No Man's Sky was one that they did feature, which is like a 8-year-old game. So
nice,
welcome,
perfect.
Yeah,
perfect. Well, then they moved on to continuity, which is a very confusing part of Apple's ecosystem, which is kind of encompasses everything handing off between your Apple devices. The first feature they showed is handoff to FaceTime. So like if I was on a FaceTime call on my phone because I was late for my meeting, then I get to my desk, my phone gets close to my laptop, I can automatically switch the FaceTime call to my laptop or back and forth. If I need to get up and go do something, I can switch it, which I think it's a nice feature. I probably won't use it that often.
Yeah.
But they did announce Continuity Camera, which we have talked several times on the podcast about third-party apps to make your phone into a webcam. Well, they're building that into the operating system.
Yeah.
They're going to sell you, I'm sure, some very expensive little clips for the top of your computer or display that you would just set your phone in there.
Yeah.
And it'll use the amazing cameras on your iPhone as your webcam.
Yeah, it's really kind of neat. It's something that you and I have been doing through third parties and stuff.
Tried various things with various results.
Yeah, but just having it built in is just so obvious, and hopefully I can get a little clip for my monitor up here.
I'm sure there will be a million of them on Amazon any day now.
I guess I do have my little small rig-esque arm. It's not a small rig brand, but it works pretty well, so I'll probably just continue to use that.
And they did talk about another crazy feature of this.
Blew my mind.
Yes, the if you have a ultra wide angle camera on your phone, it will use that camera to do a desk view. So if you're trying to like show people stuff on your desk, it'll do some weird warping. It looked very good in the presentation. Again, results may vary, but you can be talking and then switch to a desk view mode and also have your face on the thing. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it uses the wide angle camera on, well, pretty much just any iPhone 12. Because the 12 has
they don't have the telephoto. They've got the ultra wide angle.
So I think the 12 line of iPhones and of course the 13 line of iPhones, all of those should be able to take advantage of this because they all have the wide angle lens. So pretty darn cool.
Yes. And then they moved on to iPadOS 16. We're almost through the OSs here.
Yes, so many OSs.
Yes, but the biggest news of the whole day, after all these years on the iPad, you will have a Apple Weather app.
Yes. We still don't have the calculator app.
Yes. No calculator.
But we do have the weather. We've had weather widgets, but But joking aside, the new weather app, a weather kit that other app developers can utilize to bring in the weather data, the collaboration stuff. Now, this is some of the stuff we touched on earlier with mail and tab groups, etc. But they've really built this in the iPad, and I don't see too many people utilizing this. So, Nate, you and I could share a tab group in Safari where tab number 1 is of a map of Las Vegas. Tab number 2 is where to buy tickets for the convention that we're going to go to.
Yes.
And tab 3 might be for the flights or something. And you could be like, well, I'm over on tab 3 and I got our flights booked. And I'm like, well, I got the map of the area.
Yes, and I would see up in your little icon of which tab you're on.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like something that I would really utilize, but
no, it's it'll be interesting. But they are adding a lot more collaboration stuff into, like, the Apple Pages and stuff. But they introduced a new app which looks really cool called Freeform, which is kind of a digital whiteboard app with all the iPad tools and drawing tools where you could really create these collaborative, image-based more than just a text-based document or whatever. It would be cool to have something like that if you're working on a project. And there's plenty of other apps that do this kind of thing, but again, with the collaboration built in and more advantages to that, it looks like a really cool app.
It's kind of like Apple Notes without all the notes garbage getting in the way.
Yes.
And it looks like it's an infinite canvas so that you can scroll way over here and somebody else can be working on another part of the canvas versus Notes where you're kind of locked into that space. So I think it's a welcome addition.
Yes.
And back to gaming, of course, on the iPad, a lot of people use it for gaming. And if you were to total up all the iPhones and iPads and people who play games on those, it's going to dwarf any PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch combined.
Yeah.
There are just so many devices out there. So, of course, gaming is important to the iPad OS ecosystem. And, of course, it has Metal 3 support, new Game Center interaction. The Game Center was a thing that was like a separate app, and then they dropped it, and then you could put it in your app. It's still very nebulous, but there's a new activity feature, so I could click on you, Nate, and say, oh, he's been playing Angry Birds. I better go over there and beat his score in Angry Birds. SharePlay integrated with Game Center. It's apparently coming later this year to macOS and iOS also.
Yes. And then they talked about the real productivity stuff for iPadOS, desktop class apps. So undo, redo across the system, merge cards in contacts. That one cracked me up.
Yeah,
they had this whole long list of stuff, and it's like lists and contacts on the iPad. It's like, okay.
These very basic things.
Yes.
You're like, they didn't do that before?
Yes, but they did talk about how the Files app, you're going to have a lot more functionality in there, be able to customize toolbars, and a lot of stuff that'll make it more like you're using an app on your computer.
It's computerifying the iPad, which is what a lot of people have wanted for a long time.
Yes, a reference color mode that nobody needs to care about,
right?
Display scaling setting, but then they talked about Stage Manager coming to iPad as you have a lot of new multitasking features and full external display support. Instead of just mirroring your iPad to an external display, now you can actually use it as an external display, have multiple windows open.
Right. It'll work very similar to on your Mac.
Yes.
And for those of you out there who are wondering, yes, I have confirmed it only works on iPads that have the M1 or the M2 processor.
Gotcha.
So the 2022 MacBook Air, the newer Pro models that have the M1 chip in them, my beloved iPad Mini 6 has the A15 chip. It's not supported.
It's not supported.
So you may have to run out and get a new iPad. But for those who want just an iPad lifestyle, this is going to be huge.
Huge change.
You get that little keyboard with a trackpad, and you stick your iPad on it, and you plug in an external monitor. Who needs a laptop?
Yeah.
You don't need one.
Nope. Very cool. So that was about it. That's a whole bunch of different stuff for today's presentation. Obviously, we just got done watching, so we'll be learning more, and then most of the software will be coming out this fall. The new computers, I think they said you can order them tomorrow, and they'll be available next month.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Ordering soon, we'll say.
They're available next month.
Yes, available next month. The public betas for all the different operating systems will be available next month. Dave, I think you've updated your phone and your iPad, and
now I'm trying to update my watch. I've been sorry to distract you while I've had to hit agree, install.
Yes.
But yes, I'm not going to upgrade my computer because I feel like I need to have one device that works.
That works right. Yeah, it's still early in the beta process, so these are the developer betas. Once the public betas come out, it's usually a little more
I think in July they're
solid.
coming out.
Yes, which is usually when we see those. So again, a lot of this stuff besides the computers is future stuff, but it looks like some really cool stuff that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, I am not disappointed.
Yes.
We've got new hardware coming. We've got new iOS updates, which are inevitable, but the features that they employ are going to be really great. And I think it's going to be a good year moving forward. The 2023 is going to be, well, I guess September 2022. I guess the school year. The 2022-23 school year is going to be great for iPhone, iPad, and Mac users.
It does get me excited for the new hardware this fall, new iPhones this fall. But yeah, we didn't hear anything specifically about AR or VR. Again, they are doing their WWDC the rest of the week with a bunch of sessions, a bunch of stuff specifically for developers. So there might be more in that, but people thought we might see their new goggles or glasses or whatever, or the car, but everything's kind of alluding to that stuff. So maybe sometime this year we'll see some of that, but we didn't see it today.
Yeah. Hopefully soon, but who knows? I'm thinking 2023 sometime, but I would gladly trade in my Oculus, Facebook, Meta, Quest, whatever they're calling it these days, for an Apple branded device. It would be what is the saying? A ice water in hell
Yes.
type experience.
Yes. Well, with that, before we go, as long as the original event did, we will wrap up this episode. Enjoy. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. But now you can get out there and tech better.